If you are a fan of Shonen Jump manga in any way, at this point we've all come to a realization. Some series just aren't popular, while others just don't get their time to shine. Today I want to talk about Aliens Area. This was a series that ran for 20 chapters in Shonen Jump from the dates of June 5th to October 23rd, and this series just never really caught the eye of people. And I think there's a very fair reason to that. Before I get started, I'm Glowplasma231, and today again, I just want to talk about what went wrong with Aliens Area. So, with this series, there is a multitude of things that I think went on to bring about this series' demise. First off, the first volume got released in the same month that the series ended. Normally with these type of things, the first volume is released about 3 months to 2 months after the series begins to have a good selection of 7 chapters, right? And from there, you can gauge how popular the series is going to be to determine when to cancel it by. The first volume of Aliens Area was released in October, and according to Shonen Jump News Unofficial on Twitter, in its first week, it only sold a little shy of 3,000 copies in all of Japan, right? And this is going toe-to-toe with, of course, series like Akane Banashi, which is at about 10-ish more chapters than Aliens Area was, that sold 34,000 copies in its first few days, right? This just really shows, how many people weren't clicking with this series. And I think the big reason for that is this series just never seemed like it was actually planned. We open up with our setting and our protagonist, this kid named Tatsumi, right? We learn that for the past little while, his arm has been acting up for him, right? It is healing really fast and is acting really weird. We cut to his home where there are aliens invading, and at this point we learn that the entirety of Earth is called a Aliens Area, a place in which aliens come to sort of have fun in a way, right? It is an area for aliens to all congregate on. And from this, we learn that Tatsumi has 2 younger siblings who are being attacked by said aliens. At the end of the chapter, this mysterious figure appears going by the name of Shiraku. Shiraku, his whole thing is that he is an investigator, pretty much the police chief of reining all of these aliens in, right? Pretty interesting premise, and the chapter ends with Shiguma asking Tatsumi to, hey, join my division, right? The one problem with this is that the series just doesn't seem to know where to go from here. We have a thing where Tatsumi agrees, and he gets introduced to this whole world of aliens, and pretty much he's working for the police department of aliens. Well, we meet his comrades, and we get a in-depth explanation of who they are and what they will do, right? And we get a brief instance where Tatsumi uses his power, a way to transmorph his arm into any device. In its first usage, it really seems like the gum fruit from One Piece, right? Being able to transmute and stretch. But from here, the series goes to a battle arc where there is this world-renowned assassin who is hunting after a princess, right? And during all of this, we just see Shiraku fight this adversary that we learn his name is Ninotachi. During this, there's a whole fight and there's a whole subplot where Tatsumi is taking care of this princess and sort of learning the rules of how this whole alien investigator job works. Well, after this entire arc is over and Tatsumi sort of understands that, we get a whole chapter about Tatsumi getting the more main power system of this series and equipment, the one thing that Shiraku uses. At this time, we also learn that Shiraku has what Tatsumi has, which is an implant that allows for some of the weirder powers, right? Interesting power system. It gets explained here, and we have an entire chapter on it. But from here, we start to skip to more slice of life, monster of the week sort of things, right? With Tatsumi now on his job, just going through and doing all these missions. This eventually ends with Tatsumi eventually, for some reason, passing his licensing exam, which we don't see anything, and then going into bureaucratic meetings, right? This series has the beginning and the end are sort of in a battle arc, while the middle is more of this slice of life, day-to-day kind of job. This can work for some series, but for this series, it just doesn't. We get this idea of equipment and Tatsumi's extra appendage that he's now able to use. But this just doesn't get fleshed out enough, with Tatsumi only using his special power about a total of 3 times in the entire series. And the whole equipment thing, the whole thing of Tatsumi choosing his own equipment, sort of just brushed off to the side to have a few slice of life arcs before we end up having this bigger battle with this more general subplot about this alien group called A3. A3's whole thing is that they just despise aliens and don't want to work with them to protect the humans of Earth. This is the exact opposite thing that we learned the people of the police division are hoping to generate towards. And from here we get an arc where Tatsumi and Shiraku meet this woman named Akina, and they have this chat about all these bureaucratic things and how these police officers of this world are not good people, right? We keep getting this until eventually she dies in a chapter, and from there, Tatsumi wants to avenge her, right? It's an interesting revenge story, right? And it's actually a compelling plot. It would be more compelling if this was sort of built up in a way that, all right, we have action, which is not the best. We have this slice of life portion, which is good, but really could have been done in a different way with a more broader objective, instead of being just placed in how it was and just loosely strewn about. Now, this all progresses to the idea of there is this one character who Akina, this alien that Akina fell in love with, and thus left this alien-hating group, A3. And from here, it is just a mess of a story, right? With most Shonen Jump series that are getting canceled, take the Hunter's Guild Red Hood, for example, the author had an idea that they want to expand upon, right? In their small amount of chapters given, they want to expand on something greater than what their story was able to tell. Well, in the case here of Alien's Area, it does the exact opposite of that. It slows down the story to make a complete and manageable idea, right? This isn't helped by the fact that, again, we had a battle arc inside of a slice of life arc, inside of something bigger that they tried to make bigger, but that just didn't work, because in the end, you have this one dude who murdered Akina in the beginning, who was recruited by Akina because he was so racist against aliens that he did not like whenever he got told that his business, his group of alien haters, was working with aliens because he was such a racist. And this whole story culminates in not only Tatsumi not using his power and Shiraku being the main character for all intents and purposes, to just making a story that is not compelling enough to sell, and only selling a little under 3,000 copies in its first week, with other way more popular series, and series that are, in my opinion, were a bit worse than this series started out as, selling even better. And it is just a sad thing. Of course, I always wish that all of these authors who write these series have the best of luck and come up with a great story, but in this case, this story didn't know what it wanted to be until it was too late. Later in the story, during the entire A3 raid on their base, after a bunch of bureaucratic meetings, we end up having Nino Tachi return, right? It was actually a cool scene, in my opinion. We just see this character who, our two main characters, were not able to use their powers, and for some ungodly reason, we don't even know why, but then this other dude who uses the exact same power set is able to use his powers, right? He appears, we don't really get any explanation for why, and beats this character. we just don't get enough explanation, being that this series was not only cut short, but also that we probably wouldn't have got this information because this series, again, did not know what it wanted to do. Now, I don't totally think this is a problem. There are plenty of examples of series that started off as something else and turned into more of a battle series, right? There's always the thing of Me and Roboco, another series running in Shonen Jump, with the author always saying, as much as I like writing a comedy manga, I eventually want to turn this into a battle series, right? With as much jokes as that is, series do change over time and progress into a more of a, instead of a battle series, a slice of life series, right? Or vice versa. But this series tries to do both, and at the end, it doesn't reach that balance like series like My Hero Academia reach, where you can have your battle moments and is at its core a battle manga with slice of life elements put into it. Aliens Area just has this middle section which just doesn't fit with the story. It fits in the sense of Tatsumi getting to understand and grow with his crewmates on this whole idea of a series. But it is not expanded upon enough to really have a good series after that. I do think the slice of life portions of this series are the best if done with more of a challenging sense. I don't remember if it was like chapter 10, 12, 11, or 13 or something in there, right? But during that time, we have a scene where Tatsumi bonds with his other worker, one of the people on his team, Genji, right? This is a very nice moment in which, again, Tatsumi bonds with him and understands and agrees there's nothing with Genji. It would be more interesting if he was actually there during the important moments, right? And while our main character is built to be Tatsumi, it's Shiraku who really comes through and is the main character that this entire series revolves around. And you've heard me say it a million times, but that's why this series failed. It didn't know what it wanted to do too late. By the time it seemed to get an idea and wanting to be more of a chill series where you have to more think about all of the stuff while battles are going on in a world trigger fashion, the series just doesn't work as it properly should, and that eventually led to its downfall. Now, while Aliens Area was running, I did enjoy it. I read the chapters week to week as they came out, and while it wasn't the best thing I've ever read, it was that replacement of that Ayashimon-shaped hole in my heart that happened whenever this series started up the week after the previous one had ended. And I just don't know what this series could have done better. Maybe it could have properly blended these two slice of life and battle shonen genres together into making a good and reliable series that would have expounded on for hundreds of more chapters. But in the end, it couldn't do that and find that perfect middle ground in the series to create something enjoyable for the general masses. And in my opinion, that's why Aliens Area failed. While it was good, it had its good moments, it just wasn't enough for audiences to come together with it as a whole. And on that note, this will be Glowplasma231 out.